What is he doing there?
What?
The gentleman here. On the grass?
With cats, you mean?
Yeah. You see it everywhere.
You see it everywhere?
Everywhere.
And where is?
Huh?
And where is?
There's a man.
Anymore?
Yeah, there's someone over there doing it, and when you drive, you see it all the time.
Kim Il-sung gives hope to people all over the world who are living in a hopeless situation. He finally achieved in liberating the country and made the country into the workers' paradise, of which I am proud to visit today.
Yeah.
natural the kids are,
Yeah.
and when they grow up, well, they're so much indoctrinated. There's still a chance there for this country that these people will grow natural people.
Yes.
Yeah, but, well, God knows what will become of them when they grow up. They get so much indoctrinated that they won't behave like natural people.
The whole world's going to be different too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So the Korean people, so the things that our leader Kim Jong-il is always in our heart of the Korean people.
Where does the leader Kim Jong-il live?
Oh, he lives nowhere. He lives in our heart. He lives in every heart of every Korean man and woman.
Right, right. Next time when people ask me where I live,
I hope to live in your heart.
Listened to South Koreans tell me what North Korea is like, and I've listened to Washington tell me about what North Korea is like, and I was tired of it, so as you said, I wanted to see from my own eyes. Because I think that there are a lot of misperceptions that, let's take the nuclear issue for example.
It was reliant on fuel from the Soviet Union. It has no oil of its own, it has some natural gas. By 1994 they needed a way to generate power, so they started to build a nuclear plant. It upset the USA that a country was going to build a heavy water factory. Jimmy Carter came here, an agreement was signed, they freeze the heavy nuclear plant in exchange for 2 light water reactors. Now these light water reactors were meant to be finished in the year 2000. We're now in 2004, all there is 2 concrete holes in the ground. So the government was left with no choice. It starts work again on the heavy water factory, which it closed in '94. And the North has said that it will freeze and allow in the International Atomic Energy Agency into this country for checks if the light water reactors resume building, they get fuel till they're completed, and the most important thing, the USA signs a pact of non-aggression and violence.
I think that the administration in Washington doesn't necessarily understand the culture of Koreans, both North Koreans and South Koreans. They don't understand certain things that you need to understand before you can make a determination on an issue like nuclear weapons. I think the U.S. is using a lot of very strong language. I mean, the president said North Korea is part of the axis of evil, and I don't think that the administration really has much information, if any information about North Korea. So little is known that I think it's difficult for the U.S. to do that. Now, on the other hand, I think that North Koreans, the government, for right or for wrong, has certain impressions of the United States in general that might not be correct.
Communist Kim Jong-il told that the nature of U.S. imperialism will never change.
The U.S. has perhaps been overly aggressive and confrontational toward North Korea. I think also North Korea perhaps has gotten too defensive. They don't trust the U.S. administration, so they as well may be saying some things and doing some things that are not necessarily helping bring the situation to a peaceful conclusion. Is that fair?
One question. I think that you generally had the general preconception of our country before you came to our country, okay? About our country, you have some idea what Korea is like. And now you are here for 3 days, and is there any change of your preconception on us?
I didn't expect North Korea to be as pretty as it is. I didn't expect it to be as green, as much farmland. I know a lot of Korean people, so I expected people to be as kind as they are. You know, so I really did have an open mind, and I was expecting it to be a nice place. So, and I've been impressed. I'm very impressed. I think it's a wonderful place. I think it's also difficult to get a complete picture of a place in only 3 days. So we have more time to spend.
I just want you to have the clear and have a correct understanding of the country.
Yes, and that's what I want to do as well. I'm not here. It would be boring. It would be a waste of my time to come and just go back and tell the same stories that they do all the time without visiting Korea.
From California to New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. Oh, this land was made for you and me. Thank you. I'll be here all week.
David.
Esteemed Your Excellency, Kim Jong-il, we, who extend full support and solidarity to the Korean people in their cause for national reunification, have the honour to address this letter to you. We wish you, esteemed Your Excellency, Kim Jong-il, long life and good health. Please accept our highest considerations.
Now I declare the start of the International March for Korean Peace and Unity. 위대한 영도자 김정일 동지 만세! 조선노동당 만세! 조선민군 만세!
Soldier of Kim Jong-il. In order to glorify the title and fulfill my duty as its soldier, I formed the Korean Friendship Association. The association includes thousands of members of different social strates and conducts colorful friendship and solidarity activities on various occasions.
We are also going to have the testimony of 2 people that suffered the atrocities of the Americans, that today they are still alive and can spread the truth about what happened here.
We have Americans amongst us. What does it mean for this tour at this place?
This means very much, because we know very well what is U.S. administration and what are the U.S. soldiers compared to the U.S. people. We have a lot of people in the USA who are peace-loving, that are members of our association, or that adhere to show the solidarity with the Korean people. So for the Koreans, it's very important that today we have here some Americans to show them that there are many people in the country that are against these atrocities and that they wish peace and friendship between both nations.
Can the atrocities be forgiven?
Yes, forgiven but not forgotten, like the typical phrase. So we'll never forget, and we'll always be aware that this never happen again. But of course, they are forgiven. If not, the US people or US friends won't be welcome here, but they are like any other nationality. They are just considered friends.
Would you mind just sort of gesturing to this and telling us a little bit about what this image means, what it's meant to represent?
Okay, exactly. My Korean is not very good, but as many of our posters and propaganda, we see a soldier, a Korean soldier, smashing the imperialist troops, okay, that are represented below. Not only the U.S. soldiers, but also the South Korean puppet army that still today they are under control of the U.S. imperialists. For this reason, they are a tragedy for the nation, for the Korean nation. Korean people are peace-loving people, as you are witnessing. They are very friendly, very open. They open the doors of the house to anybody that comes to visit. But on the other hand, we have the U.S. that they are not happy only to have their own territory, but they consider themselves a superior race. So this is the courage of the Korean soldier expelling and destroying the American and imperialist troops. Which in Korean, I don't know the exact translation, but Lee Dong-ji will tell me what it says.
What is it
exactly meaning of
withdraw the United States troops
so please, I think
and
we are
to achieve the national unification.
A soldier should follow his leader, not only in idea, but also in dressing. I have several clothes fenced by North Koreans. One of them is a jumper. I have it made because Kim Jong-il likes to wear it, calling it people's dress or combat uniform. My warm reverence for him made me even model my dressing on his.
So I would like to briefly introduce about Sincheon Museum. During the Korean War, the Koreans who are living in this county, as well as those who are living around these surrounding areas, they had been all going to the southwards. In Sincheon County, the U.S. troops stayed here. During their stay, they have killed. The atrocities which was committed by the U.S. troops had been too cruel and vicious and bestial, homicidal atrocities. Hitler writes that Comrade Kim Il-sung had given us the guidance in this area. The respected leader Comrade Kim Jong-il had visited here 2 times. These pictures show the atrocities. The enemies had killed. Earthly, like that. They have killed. We have to kill all mothers and even children of the Sincheon area. They had given gasoline to those crying babies who are crying for thirsty. The children, knowing that the gasoline is water, they have drunken it and from bitter pain and vomiting blood, and they thought those blood was the breast milk of mother, and babies had been sucking on that. The farmer was known as the very energetic hard worker. They had killed his son in front of him with axing his head, and after that they had killed him, first cutting all of his legs and arms. His daughter-in-law had been killed brutally like that. With knife they had teared off her breast and killed brutally.
How, if at all, does that change your view of the U.S. coming here and seeing these alleged atrocities?
It doesn't change my view of the U.S.
Is it pretty much what, did you expect to hear these kinds of things? Or is this...
I pretty much expected to hear. It was pretty much as I thought it would be.
What does she hope people will learn from this museum?
우리 조선인민에게 끼친 바로 미제와 끼친 피값 이걸 1100배로 받았냐 우리 한국 쓰시는
It gives revenge, the strong revenge feeling against U.S. imperialists who had been killed brutally, Koreans here, innocent people. So we think that blood to blood, we should revenge those enemies. So we'll take a little break. You will be killed.
Studley, how long have you been here and you're already hitting on all of them?
I'm a man.
He's a big movie star. Big movie star. Hollywood. Lord of Sleep. Thank you doing Jewish dance. I'm Studley Bornstein. Perhaps you recognize me from such featured films as I Am Tarzan and Hear Me Roar.
Okay, I've got one there, mate. They might understand.
Yes.
Surround, net surround.
What did you say? I love you, I love you, I love you.
I love you.
Does she feel different now that she actually spoke to a live, living American person?
실제 여기 와서 진짜 미국 사람이라고 말하니까 다 놀래가지고 좀 감동하고 다른가요?
같은 사람인데 다 같이 있고요.
We are all human beings, the same human beings, and the feeling are the same.
Just tell her that not all Americans are as good looking as I am.
Not you guys. 왜 미국인들 속에서 자기만큼 저런 사람 없대?
Well, you guys having a blast to be talking to the ladies, aren't you? You ever seen a man talk to ladies before? Not something in the Netherlands that you don't have?
Well, we're in the DPRK and you're schmoozing like it's the USA. Hey, this is one side, not Las Vegas.
Perhaps you recognize me from such films as Hey Baby, What's Going On?
Hey David, the iPod moment now.
Oh, hey, give her the iPod. Have her put the iPod on.
My gosh, schmuck, I didn't bring it.
You bring your camera.
The iPod, you get the first one?
You like music?
No. Yeah, oh, you gotta take a picture of that.
Yeah. I think they'll like them a Barbie girl.
Well, we sort of got it yesterday with the kids, but I mean,
We can't take Bornstein anywhere, can we?
He's like corrupting. He's corrupting everybody.
I know, he's terrible.
Everybody and everything he touches, he corrupts within American.
the cameras chased her away.
The guides can show. There's much slack, and you can ask any sort of question you want, really. And you have much more slack than you would think if you just believe the external news. Say hardship, not disaster. Okay?
Yeah.
So this is important for us to show that indeed what you hear on the outside is not true. you can see and experience this for yourself, and that also you can stay here and have a lot of fun.
That's true, and you have a beautiful beach.
Yes?
Yes, it's very beautiful.
Clean, no glass, no, well, at least not much garbage. One or two cigarette butts, maybe those.
If you drank from this kind of bottle and you verify the data, if you have any problem, diarrhea or something, please let know our doctors, David or the Korean one, okay? And of course, do not drink anymore like Andrew. Okay? Only this, but always check the SPY date. I discovered not because the SPY date, but because the taste was terrible. Okay, the North Korean water must be crystal clear and delicious.
It tastes like American.
Yeah, like American eggs.
A recent UN report revealed that a large portion of North Korea's overall income is brought in through outsourced slave labor. Primarily focused in China and Russia, tens of thousands of North Koreans are forced to work as much as 20 hours a day, while up to $2.3 billion a year in wages are collected by their government. But slavery isn't the only criminal activity from which North Korea sees profit. So we wanted to know, how exactly does North Korea make money? Well, North Korea's economy has always seen abysmal growth. According to UN statistics, both North and South Korea started out with a similar GDP in 1970, around $300 per capita. By 2013, South Korea's GDP had grown by nearly 9,000%. Meanwhile, North Korea's GDP only doubled over those 4 decades. But most financial figures surrounding their economy are unknown, as North Korea has one of the most closed economic systems in the world. This is the result of a cultural philosophy known as Juche, or self-reliance. The enclosed system is one of the ways that North Korea is able to farm out its citizens in what is effectively slavery. While some workers do see payment from their government, it is in the form of nearly worthless local currency, the won, at a massively inflated exchange rate. In North Korea's black markets, a single US dollar can buy more than 8,000 won, while the government offers an exchange of just 105 won. But besides collecting for slave labor, North Korea also trades in other internationally prohibited activities. One North Korean defector reported that the country has allocated major agricultural zones for growing opium. They have also become well known for producing mass quantities of methamphetamines, the majority of which go to China. A 2008 congressional report found that the increasing drug trade over North Korean borders was strongly linked to government sources. However, later congressional reports disputed this link, pointing to private North Korean drug traffickers as the source instead. North Korea is also a hotbed of counterfeiting. The US has accused their government of producing at least $45 million in very high-quality $100 bills, which are known as supernotes. This counterfeiting operation is thought to net up to $25 million a year in profit. But perhaps the biggest benefactor of North Korea's economy is actually China. While North Korea has almost no money, they have considerable natural resources. North Korea imported nearly twice as much as they exported with China. But this trade imbalance is actually beneficial to China because it comes with mining contracts for North Korean coal and zinc. China is also one of the only countries to support North Korea with food, weapons, and energy in the face of international sanctions. North Korea's dishonest economic dealings may explain how they've avoided collapse while sanctioned around the world. As long as they continue an alliance with China and Russia to keep their limited trade afloat, North Korea will keep exporting drugs, counterfeit bills, and slave labor. North Korea's outsourcing of slave labor is particularly disconcerting. Check out this Seeker Daily video up top to learn more about why they started this practice. Or, if you wanted to know how their secretive government actually works, check out our video down below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you get new videos every day.
Well, I'm afraid I haven't read enough of Kim Il-sung's works to know how to work with this. Do you think perhaps if you had some more guidance, you'd be able on-spot guidance? Yeah, it would be of great help.
No. Come here.
The United Nations World Food Program, which works in this country, which is set up, it is a tremendous need. Based upon my next line in the piece will be the crippling sanctions from the United States have made it unable for North Korea to get all of the food to people that need to have food.
Okay, I would say hardship, not disaster.
Okay.
But your call.
Well, it's not my words, United Nations word, but I can change it.
Your call. Just making an observation.
Okay. Although conditions have improved, this country remains. This country
is experiencing significant hardship.
Okay, fair enough, Bruner.
Yes. You have to voluntarily pay for it.
3, 2, 1. Although conditions have improved.
If I made a mistake, you know, it's insulting to me. When you've been up there, that's not. Sorry. What? This is not something to.
Well, we can all hear it.
Yeah, but don't film it.
I did, and on camera, that a member of the KFA took exception to. I was discussing the economic conditions in the country. The KFA member thought I went too far. Funny enough, I thought he had a good point. I altered what I said to come up with something a little more concise that read a little better. Didn't think twice about it until afterwards. This member of the KFA reported to the head of the KFA, Alejandro Caldebenos, that I was undermining the DPRK and spreading lies, at which point Alejandro took my camera, started screening it, said that he was tired of my lies. He then threatened my life, said that he would track me down, find me no matter where I was, or thousands of his followers would do so. And the next thing I knew, my room had been broken into. My tapes were in here. They broke the lock that's down there. They're all gone. They came into my room and broke the lock, and they took everything that we've worked on. And I was effectively, from that point onward, placed under house arrest.
So what do you think of the trip so far, Bjornar? Has it been a success?
조선은 하노라. Wouldn't do interviews.
Has it been a success? Do you think?
조선은 하노라.
I think that you think that I'm more aggressive than I really am. I don't have anything against you. 5?
I didn't intend this to happen.
Oh.
The stories that I were going to do, and the stories I'm still hoping to do, assuming my tapes haven't been destroyed, will be better pressed than North Korea has had in such a long time, and will reach so many people. I'm telling you, they you know, from the waterfall to the dancing to things that we've seen to a group of Western tourists traveling through North Korea, there was going to be so much good that the line or two you might take exception to, which I changed. If this is what it comes down to, when I lose my tapes, or it becomes, I spent 10 days in North Korea witnessing wonderful sights, only at the end I was taken away and burned by a man who's overzealous and not a friend of North Korea, and kicked members out of his organization. That's what the story is going to be.
You have 2 seconds, me and you, just private.
I was eventually asked to apologize for what I had done. It was a very difficult situation. I made my point very clear that I didn't think I had done anything wrong. I was threatened with being detained further in the country. I ultimately worked out an arrangement with the government whereby I told them the words that they wanted to hear, and they segregated me from the rest of the group, drove me around the city of Pyongyang in a car by myself this morning, and eventually took me to the airport. The official word given was that there was some concern that I had been filming military installations. That was patently not true. There was nothing on those tapes that was at all the military stuff. No, I didn't even want to shoot them because I don't need them, because I have tons of file pictures of military. The only military pictures were like out the windows of the occasional stragglers walking. They wanted, Bjorner told me it was all a setup, that he had planned to get me, and that at some point during the week it was going to happen. Regardless of what there was or wasn't on my tape, I'm not going to let anybody censor what I can or can't shoot, but I was playing by whatever rules we were given. But they clearly had fabricated a story and had an agenda and wanted my tapes. If they gave the tapes back and I explained it to them, I'd forget the whole thing. I go back, I do my stories, everybody's happy, and I swear to them the stories will be good. This way, I mean, why are they so stupid? The really interesting thing, and the reason why I think it's all an Alejandro setup, is that Mr. Kim is the one who I was dealing with it throughout yesterday, and he was the one who gave me the option to write the letter, or I would be detained and turned over to security forces, kept in the detention center.
That letter was a face saver for Alejandro. That's all that was.
Well, listen about the letter. The letter basically, Mr. Kim says, we will only keep this between us. Don't tell anybody in the group. And I won't tell anybody. I'm thinking, that's weird. Why would he keep it to himself? When I got to the airport today and noticed I was taken in separately in a black car with black windows and driven around in circles actually for a while first before we went to the airport. And then when we got there, Mr. Liu, the fat man who sat in the front of the bus, yeah, he and I had gotten along great earlier in the week, so he saw me. I hadn't seen him in days. He's smiling, he's waving at me, and I'm looking at him like with this somber face, and he sort of says, what's wrong? And Mr. Lee comes over and says, Mr. Lee, does he not know what happened? Mr. Lee asked, he had no idea. He's Mr. Kim's boss. Unless he's lying, he had no idea. Which means the whole thing, Alejandro could have had the tapes the whole time, that it could have just been him and Mr. Kim playing along, because Mr. Kim would only talk about those concerned. I said, who are those concerned? He'd say, intelligence agents, but very vague. And I said,
so the North Korean government could have no idea what happened.
Potentially. That's
fascinating.
Yeah.
That's scary.
The one tape I did save, funny enough, is I have the interview with Mr. Kim, was in my bag. They asked me for today's tapes, and that happened to be in my bag, and it was shot the day before. So I didn't give it to them. And it wasn't in my room when they broke in and stole everything. So the one thing I have is a shot of me walking with the guy who basically forced me to write the confession and his statement. So it's all on him. So he could be headed to the Gulag pretty soon. Significant issues. On the other hand, you have North Korea, which also has very firm points, a line in the sand, if you will, where they will not move from. So I think what you have are two sides which are not seeing the other side's point of view at this point, and that's led largely to a stalemate, Mr. Lee.
Is it okay that I press the record button?
I saw you recording it. The light was on.
Exactly. This is it right here.
The gate we entered.
Yeah. This is the
that was
zone. Yes,
the entrance of
Anyway, it's like jumping down to the subway and touching one of the rails. Subway, the fence. It's the same electricity that's used for a subway. So it's pretty...
It's 1,000 volts?
I figure approximately 1,000 volts, yes.
And what's behind the bridge?
So you get right.
And we are going to shout the slogans with the microphone or with a loudspeaker. Okay. Then what slogans we are going? We are going to say Korea is one. Korea is one in Korea. Chosunun Hanada.
Chosunun Hanada.
Another we are going to say Yankee go home.
Yankee go home.
Yankee go home.
Yankee go home.
We're entering Panmunjom.
Say again. Alex, say again and louder.
Yeah, no problem.
Panmunjom from South Korea. Panmunjom is right there. We are now in the border, okay? We are going to be just in the line. If you visit Panmunjom from South Korean side, the first thing the American and South Koreans will tell you is that this building is fake, that this is a decoration, that we don't have money to build houses, and we are dying. So this is a demonstration, this building, that the South Koreans lie. And this same lie is spread in all the media. This is the famous building. They say it's a decoration. So please let the world and all the friends know the lies of the American media. Thank you.
First of all, we'll have a look at the Panmunjom area. So this way, please.
This is the DMZ, in the north and the south.
The White
Charles
Buildings
Bronson
are ran by
poses.
our
Yeah, I'll
side,
just
and
poke
the
out with some
Blue
corner.
Buildings are ran by United States.
좌우 양옆에 나무 사이로 보이는 푸른 건물들이 미군 소속이다.
A U.S. military post.
이렇게 하나의 조선 민족이 군사분 기술을 사이에 두고 50년이 넘도록 북한 나무를 효율적으로 빌렸다.
The Korean people are still facing the tyrannical division for over 50 years.
Tourist bus coming from the south.
앞에 문 열어놓은 집이 지난 시기 군사분들이 들어가고
The building with open the door. That's where we have met.
Battle of
Who are
the
they
Tourists.
watching?
Oh, this is so funny.
The armored car which has just passed away, that's the armored car from the South Korea side.
It's not an armored car, it's a Hummer.
Actually, it is law, it is a regulation to forbid any armored car or armistice weapons.
이쪽으로 좀 오겠습니다.
Please come nearer to this side.
안 돼, 빨리빨리.
Is the United States behind this? They put the South Korean soldiers in front to show. But look, up there, the American commander, they are the one dividing the Korean Peninsula. And they put the South Koreans in front just for a showcase for us. They also flagged the United Nations flag. when they are not authorized by them. The United Nations doesn't authorize this. It's a purely American division. Yes? This is very important. Look up there, the colonels and generals from the United States perpetuating the division of the Korean Peninsula. They are the guilty ones. They are the ones that are making the Korean people failing to be reunited again.
The soldiers above the balcony over there, in uniform, they are the U.S. soldiers, officers.
But the ones down low? The ones here are U.S.?
No,
they are the South Korean soldiers in U.S. uniform.
Oh, all right.
The South Koreans are just puppets of them. These are the warlords, the criminals, up there controlling South Korea. There will be one day that the South Koreans will realize that. And then that Yankees will go home. Huh? Yankees go home!
again.
Yankees go home! Yankees go home! Yankees go home! Yankees go home!
The border is only about 100. The border is only 100. The border is less than 100 yards. 3, 2, 1. I'm standing right on the border, and that's about as close as most people will ever get to North Korea. In fact, security is so tight that should anybody try to cross the border, they could run the risk of being shot. Although Seoul is only an hour in that direction on the South Korean side of the border, if I wanted to get there, I would first need to travel to Pyongyang, then fly to China before getting on another plane to take me to South Korea.
Does it remind you of
So often when we ask to do something, there's a reason we say, oh, there's no time on the schedule, or we must stick to the schedule.
Please, let's see that. We didn't make the schedule ourselves.
And I didn't either. But there's sometimes the time becomes available.
Oh, excuse me. What? We are, we are doing our best. But some of you have the wrong impression, wrong impacts. How? You just heard what he's saying, right? So if you say that one go to A place and B go to B place and C won't go to C place, then how can a group can be organized? So what we teach from the childhood is that you should cultivate the team spirit. And because you are living in a society, not living alone.
We had no part in the schedule. We didn't decide the schedule at all.
Then who decided? We didn't.
We didn't either.
Then who is it? The ghost?
Maybe Alejandro.
We saw that you have discussion with him.
I mean, the schedule is very good, but when you come here...
No, I don't think the schedule is very good, because most of you are just asking to show us these things and these things and this thing.
Part of the problem is that when we get to the DPRK, we learn about things that we didn't know existed, and we didn't know were here, and so we didn't even know to think to ask to put them on the schedule. So when we learn about them, that's when we ask to see them, and that's part of the problem. Are we still friends?
Sure.
All right.
Please say, time to get back. Stop for a second. We gotta have you stop.
Everybody's just going.
Yeah, but tell them anyway. Stop. Stop. I need you to stop. Stand.
Okay, shall we get into the bus, please?
We came to your country with friendly treatment, with solidarity to the Korean people. The just house which is nation and peace on the Korean Peninsula. First of
그걸 진짜 봤어. 나는 문제에 성원되는 나의 평화를 위한 소유비 자신의 정신을 주님의 위대한
Wir fahren jetzt also an die Musikhochschule.
Und was machen wir da?
Ich tue eigentlich nichts, aber ein paar Leute hier, also die üben zusammen mit den koreanischen Künstlern.
Nun ist es gelungen, tatsächlich eine Begegnung möglich zu machen zwischen Musikern aus beiden Ländern.
위대한 영대자 김정일 원주께서는 2006년 6월 여기 우리 대학을 통사하셨습니다.
Also im Juni 2006 hat der große Führer General Kim Jong-il unsere Universität besucht.
Also meine Eindrücke von den Musikern des Münchner Kammerorchesters sind zum einen es gibt so eine normale Biokurve der Erfahrung, die man hier hat, weil man einfach unter dem Eindruck steht. Es gibt Dinge, die einfach ganz deutlich anders sind als in Deutschland und in anderen Ländern. Diesmal gibt es ganz besonders den direkten Kontakt, weil wir mit den Musikern zusammen in einem Orchester sitzen. Aber das, was mich immer fasziniert hat an Korea, egal ob das im Süden ist oder hier im Norden, ist die große Emotionalität der jungen Musiker, die sehr, sehr, sehr ehrgeizig, aber vor allem auch sehr, sehr intelligent und emotional mit der Musik umgehen. Und das greift auch momentan auf die Musiker des Münchner Kammerorchesters über, dass sie merken, dass hier Menschen praktisch sehr, sehr emotional an der Musik dran sind, dass die Musik ein unglaublich wichtiger Gestus ist, weil sie aus dem Inneren heraus ein Bedürfnis haben zu musizieren und das nicht nur, vielleicht wie manche anderen, einfach eine Art von Statussymbol ist, sondern die Musik ist hier ein ganz, ganz wesentliches.
In einer Situation, in der die politischen Rahmenbedingungen, und das ist ja ganz unverkennbar in Korea so, schwierig sind und auch Dialoge schwierig sind und belastet sind und vorbelastet sind, hat der kulturelle Dialog eine besondere Chance.
Dass wir bei den neuen Auftakten wirklich deutlich atmen. Die Jam, Jam, Bam, Ba, Di, Da, 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 Da. Ja?
Anders als in anderen Sphären gesellschaftlicher und politischer Arbeit ist es im Bereich der Kunst möglich, ganz schnell zu sprechen über das, was Menschen verbindet und nicht das, was Menschen trennt. Und das ist, glaube ich, hier nochmal ganz besonders deutlich, dass genau diese Anschlussmöglichkeit besteht, wenn es gelingt, Künstler aus verschiedenen Kulturen zusammenzubringen und arbeiten zu lassen und Arbeitssituationen zu schaffen, die ihnen die Möglichkeit des direkten Austausches geben.
무엇인가 알았으면 거기에 집중해서
Gut, jetzt merkt man, wie wir korrespondieren.
음악에서 다 배워주는 여보대로 하지만 새롭게 같이 연주해보니까 더 이렇게 그런 느낌이 더 오고 더 정확한 걸 좀 할 수 있다는 거. 우리가 하이든 곡도 그렇고 여기서 이렇게 실질적으로 이렇게 진짜 자기네 나라에서 연주하는 것만큼 우리가 듣게 되니까 더 이렇게 새로운 걸 알게 됐습니다.
말이 안 통하는 게 조금 불편하긴 한데 그 외에는 역시 음악은 세계 공통을할지 감정이 통하니까 불편하지 않고 아주 편하고 기분이 좋습니다.
Alles klar. Also die Zusammenarbeit mit den Schülern ist vor allem sehr spannend, also ist toll, weil die so schnell aufnahmefähig sind. Wir kommen von zwei relativ weit voneinander entfernten Welten. Trotzdem, die sind interessiert, die sind schnell, die wollen wissen, was wir haben und wir können uns wirklich sehr schnell zu denen finden und mit denen musizieren.
이때까지 진짜 재미나게 흘러왔는데 파트랑 같이 하면서 좀 부족점은 뭐 서피 선생님이 우리에게 많이 좀 주법상에서나 많은 걸 좀 대주고.
Wow, okay. Selma. Selma, oh. Also ich bin nicht sicher, aber ich glaube, die produzieren schon lange keine Bohnen mehr. Also, wow. Okay, sehr gut.
Es ist eine Sensation, dass wir hier zum ersten Mal mit einem ganzen Orchester und einzelnen Musikern unterrichten können. Das war so noch nicht, ich glaube, es ist noch nicht passiert. Es gab zwar Ensembles, die gastweise immer wieder hierher kamen und aufgetreten sind, aber dass die praktisch als ganzes Ensemble an die Hochschule gegangen sind und unterrichtet haben, ist tatsächlich zum ersten Mal. Und das ist das Besondere an dem Projekt. Wenn Sie als Tourist ins Land einreisen, haben Sie eine Art von programmatischer Abgeschlossenheit. Die uns werden wenig Kontakt haben mit der privaten Bevölkerung des Landes. Und das ist hier besonders einfach. Man merkt 1:1 hier, wie Leute denken, was sie bewegt, den Ehrgeiz, die Liebe, die Zweifel.
glaube, aus diesen vielen kleinen Begegnungen wird so etwas entstehen wie Nachhaltigkeit. Die Kontakte werden sicher auch mit der Hilfe des Goethe-Instituts weitergehen. Wir sind angesprochen worden von vielen Musikern des Orchesters darauf, wie man die Musiker hier weiter unterstützen kann in ihrer Arbeit. Und wir sind immer wieder darauf hingewiesen worden, wie wichtig diese persönliche Begegnung ist.
다 그런 dieser Grund. Nein, wir müssen nicht so zwingen. Bitte machen Sie frei. Ja, es klingt auch besser. Ich meine, auch schön. Ja? Zum ersten Mal hat auch sehr gut geklungen. Deswegen, ja? Ja, gut.
Sehr gut. Vielleicht mehr gesungen noch. 1, 2. Sind Sie einverstanden?
Ja, sicher.
Ja?
Ja.
Okay.
North Korean exile now living in South Korea who has known much pain and suffering in her life, both physically and emotionally. Yang says life in North Korea was unbearable and brutal.
I was living in the poorest village in North Korea. We had to eat sand, which was hard to get. I had to go far away to get this sand, and only a few people got some. I also had to eat wood. It was difficult to go to the bathroom.
At the peak of the famine in the mid-1990s, Yang says 10 or 11 people in her village were starving to death every day. Many suffered mental breakdowns as unspeakable horrors took place. Desperate to help her family that included 2 daughters, Yang snuck into China in 1998. She wanted to earn money, then return to North Korea and start a small business. With the Chinese police looking for North Korean defectors, Yang was unable to work and return home, where she was viewed as a traitor and abused and beaten. In 2002, she fled North Korea again to China with hopes of making some money. There, Yang met an ethnic Korean woman who was operating a rice-selling business. This woman was a Christian.
Before this lady left the house, she prayed. At work, she prayed. I asked her what she was doing, and she said she believed in God and went to church. I asked her, what was church? She told me about the existence of God, and if you meet God, you will be blessed.
Yang gave her life to Christ, and returned to North Korea, where she would begin a business, now as a Christian.
I was doing a noodle and rice business in North Korea, and as I learned in China, I prayed when I was doing my business. The lady beside me asked what I was doing. I didn't say anything. Some of my relatives from China also saw me praying and told the lady I was a Christian, and she told the authorities that I was a Christian.
The authorities brought Yang in for questioning, but they couldn't find any evidence that she'd become a Christian. Doing so is seen as an act of treason in North Korea, as only the worship of the Kim family is allowed. The lack of evidence didn't stop authorities from arresting Yang and beating and torturing her. This went on for a month.
They used a shovel to beat people. That's what they did to me. Your body becomes blue everywhere. After I was released, I was followed everywhere by the authorities. I was not allowed to speak anywhere I went. My in-laws didn't even treat me like a human, so I decided to leave the country again.
Yang went back to China in 2003, and while there, she was kidnapped. She was sold into slavery as a maid and repeatedly raped.
I was sold to a businessman who owned a department store. I was locked in the house. I was a slave. The telephone line was cut and the doors were locked from the outside, so I couldn't run away. I was a slave there for 1 month and 13 days before I escaped.
Yang's troubles in China continued, as she didn't speak the language and survival was extremely difficult. In 2006, while 6 months pregnant, she and a friend decided to try to make it to South Korea. With the help of some brokers, they were brought near the Mongolian border. It was winter and very cold. The ground was covered in snow. Yang and her friend got lost, and for 3 days they couldn't find the guards at the border garrison. Yang miscarried and placed the baby in a handbag.
I didn't know what to do, but I had to walk. So I hung the bag around my neck and walked all night. All around us were skeletons and bones. Those bones were North Korean defectors. My friends started to rip my clothes because I didn't give her bread.
Yang didn't have any food. Her friend was hallucinating. Yang was devastated as she watched her friend die in the snow in the bitterly cold temperatures of Mongolia.
Her heart finally stopped, but I will never forget her eyes. She was crying and looked at me. After my friend died, I think I was in shock. I fell asleep. I woke up. I felt warm. I thought it was sunshine, and I had one hand on my friend and the other hand on my baby. It was still dark. I got up and prayed for the Lord to save me.
2 more days would pass before Yang was finally discovered by patrolling Mongolian border guards. They found her lying in the snow. She was unable to open her eyes or move. Yang was taken to a hospital in Mongolia. The bodies of her friend and baby were left behind. Yang suffered severe frostbite. Very little could be done by the medical staff in Mongolia, so Yang was flown to Seoul to the South Korean Armed Forces Medical Command. Because of the frostbite, all of Yang's toes were amputated on her left foot. There was also some damage to her right foot, and a nerve from her right thigh was transplanted to the left foot. 5 years later, Yang is still in constant pain. With all that Yang has been through, it's amazing that she's been able to keep going and look to the future. She credits her faith in Jesus Christ as the reason she has hope, but admits her faith has been tested.
When I almost died in Mongolia, I prayed for God's help. My baby died, my friend died, and God didn't answer my prayers. At the time, I was bitter, but God gave me the heart to leave, and I kept praying to leave. He saved me. Now I have become a faithful Christian and to be a missionary for God. I am learning about God, and I will live for God.
Yang has suffered so much abuse and heartache over the years, and with all that she's had to endure, you'd expect that she'd be bitter, but she's not. In fact, Yang is looking forward to the future as a missionary to North Koreans.
I want to minister to the people of my home country. I want to make sure I spread the word of God. I want people to know that there is an invisible God who we are to believe in, whether they are in North Korea, China, or anywhere in the world. I also want to tell about real life in North Korea to the world, and that there are people like me in North Korea. It's a country that doesn't believe in God. The reason I choose to do missionary work is because there are many North Korean defectors living in the world. I want them to know I survived, and I will be more persuasive for them to believe in Christ.
Should the door open, Yang would like to return to North Korea to bring her people the message of God's love and forgiveness, something she experienced after coming into a relationship with Jesus Christ, of which she sings about from the heart.
용서받을 수 있나요? 본래만도 못한 내가 용서받을 수 있나요?
이게 중화간지군 대피훈련이군 하면 어머니들이 할머니들이 대피훈련장에 내려와서 하는 소리가 이건 남미국 놈들 때문이다 그러면서 대피훈련도 하고 불빛마기도 하고 그냥 그런 걸 하니까니 내 생각으로는 우리 학교에서 가르치는 바와 같이 미국 놈을 끝없이 미워하고 미국 놈하고는 끝까지 싸워야 하고
Officially, North Korea is divided into three classes: the workers, the peasants, and the intellectuals, who are seen as equals in society. Hyunsun's family is from the workers' class. Her father is a driver for a government ministry. Her grandfather is a construction worker. Mother and grandmother are housewives. Housing is allocated by the state. Pyongyang is not representative of North Korea. It is the showcase capital. For its 2 million residents, it's considered a privilege to live here. State radio is piped to every kitchen in the block. Listeners can turn the volume down, but not off. The apartment has 2 bedrooms, one for Hyunsun, one for her parents. Her grandparents sleep on the floor where the family is eating. Hyunsun's television is a gift from the state, a reward for performance in the mass games of 2002. There is only one channel. It broadcasts propaganda news, films and entertainment for 5 hours per day.
우리나라에는 이렇게 영웅들을 이렇게 셀 수 없을 정도로 영웅들이 그렇게 많습니다. 그 중에서도 우리나라의 용예를 떨친 정성욱 선수처럼 나도 예술 체조를 잘해서 그렇게 됐으면 합니다. 앞으로는 꼭 그렇게 되겠습니다.
성현이 일어나서 학교 가요. 시간 됐어요. 빨리. 야, 성현이 학교 시간 빨리. 시간. 빨리 하고 가자요. 학교 늦겠어요.
Kim Song-yeon is 11 years old and has performed in 2 mass games. Her family is from the intellectual class. Her father is a physics lecturer at Kim Il-sung University. Her mother is a housewife. She has 2 older sisters. One is 15 and a high school student. The eldest is 18, a high school graduate who will shortly be joining the army. Song-yeon's sisters have a room each. Her parents sleep on the lounge floor. Song-yeon sleeps in a different sister's room each night.
성열이 뭐 다 했나? 다 했어.
umasukkan aja.
What's that, monitor?
Our class will go to the movies this afternoon.
Will they show a good film?
Sure, they will show a very interesting film.
Will our teacher come with us?
Yes, he will.
How will you spend your next holiday?
Well, I'll go to the swimming pool with my brother.
Oh, wonderful. Can you swim?
Of course I can. I'm a good swimmer.
Should I come with you?
Yes, please. Let's go together.
Will your sister come too?
No, she won't. She'll be instead then.
I've been teaching English for 5 years.
Good translation. Next, the third sentence, who is?
Song-yeon. She's good, but in study she's not very good. She spends a lot of time in practicing her skill in the sports club. So in comparison with other students, she does not spend a lot of time to study. So she's not very good in study, but she's quite good enough. Not very bad.
Hello everybody. Everyone has something to do in the streets. Most of us will join the Korean People's Army.
N, north. E, east. West, W, west. South. So the first letters make up news.
절대적인 지위와 결정적 역할을 합니다. 둘째로 우리 수령님의 위대성을 대학생들 속에서 철저히 인식시켜드리겠습니다. 경양신의 위대성은 크게 몇 가지입니까? 세 가지. 첫째는 사상의 위대성, 두 번째는 용도의 위대성, 세 번째는 거대한 풍모의 위대성입니다. 이렇게 경의하는 수령의 위대성을 세 가지로 인식시켜드리겠습니다. 미제 침략자들은 어디를 침략하고 있습니까? 유럽은 세계적인 정세를 얻고보다는 그 침략자들은 한시도 남을 벌써 침략하지 않는다는 그건 제국주의가 아닌 것입니다. 또 오늘 우리 혁명이 얼마나 어려운 속에서 진행되고 있습니까? 지구상에 하나밖에 남지 않은 조선의 사회주의를 없애버리려고 책동하는 이놈들은 우리나라를 고립, 압살, 질식시켜가지고 정당에는 사회주의 버릇을 어떻게 하려고 합니까? 허물어 버리려고 합니다. 그 수령의 용도를 받을 때 자기 운명이 영원한 행복이 마련됐습니다.
Baghdad has fallen to the Americans 4 days earlier, but there has been no official reporting of this in the state media.
아들이 없으니까 인민군대 좀 내보내서 이거에 쪽 통일 위해서 이거 좀 주먹 가지고 좀 기여할 수 있는 그런 아들이 없는 건 좀 섭섭한 감정은 있습니다. 내 직업 자체가 인텔이다 하니까 이게 과학 사업을 하다 보니까 조용한 걸 좋아하는데 이 집에 들어오면 그런 분위기가 안 서요. 아이들이 여자들이니까 그래서 여거 구강이 너무 발전되어서 난 그저 우리 딸들 뭐 딸만이라고 해서 섭섭하게 생각은 없다는 거. 우리 딸들이 이제 잘 키워서 야는 이제 인민군대 이제 태권도 가지고 이제 군대에 나가서 좀 자기 일을 하고 말하자면 둘째는 좀 이거 조용한 성격에 이 공부밖에 모른단 말입니다. 그러니까 이건 과학자로 좀 키우려고. 우리 막내는 예능이 좀 밝으니까 이거 무용.
아무래도 언어가 다르고 풍습도 다르니까 사람들이 어떤 때 즐거워하고 어떤 때 이게 분노해하고 이런 감정들이 특히 그 텔레비전에 나온 그 최근 국제 소식 같은 거 우리 사람들이 옛날에는 이게 몰랐단 말입니다. 예? 근데 지금 이게 아주 정의로운 이런 걸 표현한다는 걸 아주 사람들이 알게 되고 그런 과정을 통해서 세계를 인식하고 이렇게 된다고.